Have you ever noticed how the heaviest silence in the world comes right after someone you trusted proves you wrong? What if the deepest wounds in life do not come from our enemies, but from those we once fiercely defended? If you have ever felt the sharp, sudden sting of betrayal from someone you stood up for, if you have ever felt foolish, angry, and exhausted all at once, this is for you. Stay until the end, because the final lesson may change the way you respond to this pain forever. There is a unique kind of heartbreak that happens when a mask falls. You know this feeling. You gave them the benefit of the doubt. When others criticized them, you were their shield. You made excuses for their behavior. You held on to their potential, and you invested your own credibility to keep them safe. And then, in a single moment, they turned around and handed you the very pain you were trying to protect them from. The shock is blinding. It is a suffocating mix of grief, betrayal, and a burning, urgent rage. You want to react. You want to shout. You want to make them understand what they have done, or you want to expose them to the world. But here is the truth. Most of your suffering in this moment is not just caused by what they did. It is caused by how tightly you are holding on to the story of who they were supposed to be. Buddhist wisdom teaches that much of our pain comes from attachment. But this does not just mean attachment to objects or status. The most dangerous attachment is often the one we have to our idea of another person. We build an image of them in our minds. We paint them with our own loyalty, our own goodness, and our own hopes. And when their real actions shatter that image, the intense suffering we feel is the painful collision between our expectation and reality. Imagine leaning against a tall, beautiful tree at the edge of a river. You trust its shade, and you trust its strength. You tell others how sturdy it is. But when a heavy storm arrives, the soil loosens, and the tree simply gives way. You fall. Not because you were weak, but because you trusted something that was not as deeply rooted as you believed. The tree did not fall to hurt you. It simply revealed the truth of its roots. Think about your own life. Think about the co-worker you vouched for, the partner whose flaws you constantly forgave, or the friend who took your unwavering support for granted. When they let you down, it felt intensely personal. You felt deeply foolish for defending them. But listen closely. Their inability to hold the weight of your loyalty is not a reflection of your worth. It is a reflection of their capacity. Ask yourself, are you angry at who they are right now? Or are you mourning the person you tried so hard to believe they were? Stop. Breathe. Observe the shock without following it into a spiral of anger. Let the feeling rise without making it your identity. You do not need to rush to fix this. You do not need to immediately decide how to retaliate. You are allowed to feel the sting of this truth. But you do not have to let it turn your heart to stone, because discovering someone's true nature, no matter how painful, is not a punishment. It is an act of liberation. It frees you from spending the rest of your life defending an illusion. You can let the mask stay on the floor. But recognizing this truth is only the first step. The real challenge comes in the moments right after the shock fades, when the ego feels bruised and the desire for justice takes over. And this is where the next truth begins. Here is the truth few people want to face when they have been deeply hurt by someone they once protected. We secretly believe that our loyalty has purchased their future goodness. What if the hardest part of the betrayal is not the act itself, but the sudden realization that they do not feel they owe you anything at all? When you defend someone, when you stand between them and the world, you naturally feel an unspoken bond. You think, I protected you, so surely you will never harm me. You keep a quiet, invisible ledger of your sacrifices. You stood up to your own friends or family for them. You risked your professional reputation to vouch for them. You lost sleep trying to hold their complicated life together. And when they betray you, the deepest pain is the overwhelming sense of injustice, the feeling that a sacred contract has been broken. Buddhist wisdom teaches us about the illusion of the transaction. We often confuse love, friendship, and loyalty with an exchange of debts. But true compassion, supporting and defending someone, can only be peaceful if it is done without an attachment to the outcome. When we expect people to act a certain way simply because we were good to them, we are no longer freely giving. We are investing, and when the investment fails, we suffer deeply because our ego feels robbed. Imagine carrying heavy stones to build a wall around someone's house, trying to keep the cold wind away from them. You carry these stones for miles, your hands bleeding, your back aching. You finally place them down, expecting to be invited inside to warm by the fire. Instead, they lock the door. If you stand in the cold, staring at the locked door, the pain in your hands will feel unbearable. You will scream at the wood, demanding to be let in. But the truth is, the stones are out of your hands now. You did what you believed was right and noble at the time. Their locked door does not erase the goodness of your effort. It only reveals the smallness of their house. Think about this in your everyday life. You cover for a co-worker, and they take the credit anyway. You defend a friend to others, and they later gossip about you. You pour your emotional energy into a relationship, only to be cast aside when you are no longer convenient. The mind screams, "After everything I did for you." Ask yourself, are you suffering right now solely because of what they did? Or are you suffering because you are clutching an unpaid invoice for your past kindness? What would happen if you simply erased the debt? Not to excuse their bad behavior, not to say what they did was right, but to free yourself from waiting for an apology that may never arrive. Pause, breathe, acknowledge the goodness in your own heart. You defended them because you have a protective, hopeful spirit. That is your strength, not your weakness. Do not let their betrayal make you regret your own light. Do your part, then release the outcome. Let the ledger burn. Let the transaction end here. You do not need to collect what you are owed to find peace, because holding on to that debt only keeps you permanently tied to the person who hurt you. But when the illusion of debt is finally dropped, what is often left behind is a sudden burning anger. And this is where the next truth begins. 3. The fire of betrayal. What if the anger burning inside you right now is not actually protecting you, but slowly burning down your own house? Here is the truth about betrayal. The immediate aftermath is deeply intoxicating. You feel the heat of injustice rising in your chest. The urge to react is overwhelming. You want to confront them. You want to draft that long, blistering message. You want to shout from the rooftops, exposing their true character to everyone who will listen. You want to tear down the very wall you once built to protect them. The anger feels deeply justified. It feels like strength. It feels like power. But in reality, it is a poison dressed as a shield. In Buddhist thought, anger is famously compared to picking up a hot coal with the intention of throwing it at someone else. You are the one who gets burned. Buddhism reminds us that reacting in blind rage does not restore justice or undo the betrayal. It only deepens the cycle of suffering. When you let someone else's brokenness turn you into someone bitter, cruel, or vindictive, you have lost more than just a relationship. You have allowed them to reach inside your mind and control your emotional state. Imagine a small, quiet candle in a dark room. It provides warmth and clarity. Now imagine a sudden, violent wind blows through a broken window, knocking the candle over. The rug catches fire. The curtains ignite. You could spend all your energy standing in the center of the room, screaming at the storm outside for breaking the glass. You could curse the wind, Or you could focus entirely on putting out the fire in your own home before it consumes everything you love. The betrayal was the wind. The fire is your reaction. Think about how this plays out in your own life. You lay awake in the middle of the night, replaying the argument, mentally crafting the perfect words to destroy their ego. You vent to mutual friends, desperately trying to rally people to your side of the story. You watch their life from a distance, quietly hoping to see them fail. You think you are fighting back, but you are just feeding the flames. They have moved on, and you are still standing in a burning room. Ask yourself, is this furious energy bringing you peace, or is it just feeding your fear of being made a fool? Are you truly seeking resolution, or are you just trying to transfer your pain back onto them? Stop. Breathe. Observe the heat of the anger without throwing more wood onto it. Let the feeling rise without making it your identity. You do not have to suppress the rage. Anger is a natural response to a broken boundary, but you must not let it steer the ship. You do not have to act immediately. You are not powerless just because you are quiet. Because true strength is not found in how loudly you can shout or how sharply you can cut them down. True strength is looking at the fire, acknowledging the heat, and consciously choosing not to let it burn your spirit. But choosing not to burn does not mean you must do nothing. There is a profound space between wild rage and passive silence. And this is where the next truth begins. 4. The space between action and reaction. What if the most powerful thing you can do when someone hurts you is to simply stop moving? We are conditioned to believe that silence is weakness. When the person you defended turns their back on you, the ego screams for immediate vindication. You feel an intense, overwhelming pressure to do something right now. If you do not strike back, they win. If you do not explain how badly they hurt you, they get away with it. You feel the desperate need to defend your own honor, to send that long message, or to force a confrontation. You are terrified that if you stay quiet, your silence will be mistaken for surrender. But here is the truth. Rushing to react does not protect you. It only gives the other person the remote control to your emotions. One of the deepest lessons of Buddhism is the profound power of the pause. Mindfulness teaches us that between everything that happens to us and our reaction to it, there is a space. In that space lies our true freedom. Letting go of the urge to react immediately is not submission. It is the highest form of self-mastery. It is recognizing that while you cannot control what they did, you have absolute sovereignty over what you do next. Imagine a glass jar filled with water and dirt. The betrayal is a violent hand that suddenly shakes the jar. The water becomes cloudy, dark, and turbulent. You cannot see through it. If you try to fix the cloudy water by shaking the jar even harder, it only becomes messier. The only way the water will ever become clear again is if you simply set the jar down on a table and wait. Slowly, the dirt settles to the bottom. The water becomes crystal clear once more. Your mind, right after a profound disappointment, is that shaken jar. Think about your own life. Think about the times you fired off an angry reply in the heat of the moment. Think about the times you demanded an apology from someone who was completely committed to misunderstanding you. Did it bring you lasting peace, or did it just exhaust you? When you try to force a resolution while the water is still muddy, you only create more chaos. You lower your own frequency to meet theirs. Ask yourself, are you preparing to speak because it will heal you, or because you want them to hurt as much as you do? Is your urgency coming from clarity, or is it coming from panic? Stop, breathe. Observe the desperate urge to react without following it. Let the feeling rise without acting on it. Keep your hands still. Do not send the message. Do not make the call. Do not try to force them to see your perspective. Just set the jar down. Give yourself the quiet gift of time. Let the storm pass without becoming the storm. A response that is slower than rage, but stronger than silence, requires profound stillness first. You do not have to give them your chaos. You can give them your calm, because true peace is not found by winning an argument with someone who betrayed you. It is found by choosing not to participate in their war. But as the mud finally settles and your mind becomes clear, you are forced to look at what remains at the bottom of the glass. And this is where the next truth begins. 5. The mirror of their actions. What if the betrayal that broke your heart was never actually about you at all? Here is the truth that the wounded ego struggles to accept. When someone you defended deeply hurts you, the immediate instinct is to look inward for the blame. You internalize the sudden shift in their behavior. You replay old conversations, scrutinizing your own kindness. You ask yourself, what did I do wrong? Was my loyalty not enough? Am I just easy to take advantage of? You carry their betrayal as if it is a heavy verdict on your own value. You assume that because they tossed your support aside, your support must have been worthless. But this is a painful illusion. In Buddhist thought, there is a profound understanding of how human beings operate. Everyone acts from their own level of awareness, their own inner suffering, and their own deep conditioning. When someone acts with deceit, selfishness, or cruelty, they are simply pouring out what they are full of. Buddhism reminds us that you cannot take personal responsibility for the karma of another person. Their inability to honor your trust is not a reflection of your inadequacy. It is a mirror reflecting their own inner poverty. Imagine a wide, quiet lake reflecting the morning sun. The water is clear, peaceful, and still. Now, imagine someone walks up to the edge with hands full of dark, heavy mud. They throw the mud violently into the water. The surface breaks. The water ripples and clouds over. But the lake does not look up at the person and ask, "Why am I not good enough?" The lake does not suddenly believe it is made of mud. It remains water. The person threw the mud simply because their own hands were dirty. The person you defended threw their mud into your quiet water. Think about how this applies to the betrayal you are feeling. The friend who suddenly ghosted you when you needed them. The partner who lied after you stood by them through their darkest days. Or the colleague who threw you under the bus for their own gain. You have been carrying the weight of their bad behavior, analyzing it, and letting it stain your own self-worth. You have been trying to make sense of the mud, believing that if you were just a better lake, they would not have thrown it. But their actions were born from their own fear, their own insecurity, and their own lack of integrity. Ask yourself, why are you judging the purity of your own heart based on the actions of someone who is entirely lost in their own storm? Is it fair to punish yourself for someone else's inability to see your worth? Stop. Breathe. Observe their action without letting it attach to your identity. Let the realization wash over you. Hand their behavior back to them. Stop trying to find the reason for their betrayal inside your own character. Do not let someone else's confusion convince you that you are broken. You can let them keep their own mud, because their inability to appreciate your loyalty is their burden to bear, not yours. Your capacity to defend and care for another human being is a beautiful thing. It remains beautiful even if it was given to someone who did not know how to hold it. But realizing that the betrayal was about them does not immediately show you how to move forward. You still have to figure out how to stand your ground when the ground itself feels like it has shifted. And this is where the next truth begins. 6. Reclaiming your inner ground. What if the real damage of a betrayal is not that someone walked away, but that they made you want to run away from yourself? Here is the truth about profound disappointment. When you have been burned by someone you stood up for, your deepest instinct is extreme self-protection. You build heavy walls. You harden your heart. You quietly promise yourself that you will never stick your neck out for anyone again. You vow never to trust so easily, never to give the benefit of the doubt, and never to expose your empathy. You feel completely unmoored, as if the ground beneath your feet has crumbled, and you believe the only way to survive the fallout is to become cold. But changing your fundamental nature because someone else lacked integrity is the ultimate defeat. In Buddhist thought, there is a powerful focus on finding an inner refuge. This is the practice of equanimity. It means developing a mind that remains steady, anchored, and balanced, no matter what external chaos is swirling around you. Equanimity teaches us that you do not need to turn your heart to stone to protect yourself. True groundedness means your peace and your character are not dependent on how other people behave. You do not let their passing storm dictate your internal weather. Imagine a massive, ancient tree standing quietly on the edge of a cliff. A sudden, violent storm rolls in. The wind howls, the rain lashes out, and a few branches are violently broken off. The tree is deeply shaken. But when the storm finally passes, the tree does not vow to never grow leaves again. It does not uproot itself and try to hide in the dark. It simply remains rooted deeply in the earth. The storm was loud and destructive, but the roots were always deeper than the wind. The tree remains exactly what it is. Think about your own life. Think about walking back into the office where that toxic colleague sits. Think about navigating a family gathering after a bitter fallout, or facing mutual friends who know exactly what happened. Your ego tells you to put on heavy armor, to project a tough, aggressive front, or to shrink into the background and hide. You think you must either fight back or flee. But reclaiming your ground means standing firmly in your own truth. It means remaining unchanged in your core goodness, but simply becoming wiser about where you offer your shade. Ask yourself, are you letting their betrayal rewrite your character? Will you allow their dishonesty to turn you into someone cynical, bitter, and closed off from the world? Stop. Breathe. Feel your feet resting on the earth. Call your energy back from the past. Pull it back from the person who hurt you, and anchor it safely within your own chest. You do not have to become hard to be safe. You do not have to become cruel to be strong. Stand firm. Your kindness, your loyalty, and your willingness to defend others are beautiful traits. Guard them carefully, but do not destroy them. You can remain completely grounded, soft in your heart, yet entirely inaccessible to those who take you for granted. Because when you no longer need to fight them to feel safe, a new kind of profound stillness emerges. And this is where the next truth begins. 7. The art of silent strength. What if the most powerful response you can give to a betrayal requires absolutely no words at all? When someone you once protected turns against you, the silence that follows can feel heavy, almost suffocating. We are conditioned to believe that silence equals surrender. If you do not speak up, if you do not loudly defend yourself, you feel as though you are letting them win. You feel a desperate, burning need to correct the false narratives. You want to text them, to confront them, to prove to everyone else that you were right and they were wrong. We mistakenly believe that words are the only way to establish our boundaries and protect our pride. But here is the truth. Responding to disrespect with frantic explanation only validates the disrespect. Buddhist wisdom teaches the profound practice of noble silence. This is not the silence of someone who is afraid to speak, nor is it the silence of a victim. It is the silence of someone who realizes that words will only feed the delusion. Buddhism reminds us that we do not need to attend every argument we are invited to. When you try to explain your worth to someone who is committed to misunderstanding you, you are giving away your energy. Noble silence is a deliberate, powerful choice. It is the deep understanding that your truth does not require their validation to remain true. Imagine a quiet, ancient mountain. At its base, a confused traveler begins shouting insults at the rock, throwing stones, and demanding the mountain explain itself. The mountain does not lower itself to shout back. It does not shrink, and it does not try to justify its immense size. It simply remains entirely, majestically still. The traveler eventually exhausts himself, dropping his stones and walking away, completely powerless against the mountain's silence. The mountain's lack of response was not weakness. It was absolute invulnerability. Think about how this looks in your own life. You hear that the person you vouched for is now twisting the story to make themselves the victim. You feel the intense instinct to post a subtle message for everyone to see, or to have the final, cutting word in a bitter text exchange. But when you engage, you step off the mountain and into the dirt. You treat their chaos as something worthy of your precious time. You lower your own vibration to meet their insecurity. Ask yourself, will speaking your mind right now actually change their heart, or will it just drain your spirit? Are you breaking your silence to find peace, or are you just trying to feed an ego that demands to be heard? Stop, breathe, observe the urge to defend yourself, and gently let it go. Close your mouth and feel the incredible power of keeping your energy to yourself. You do not have to explain your boundaries. You do not have to announce your departure. You do not need to prove that you are a good person. Let your silence do the heavy lifting. Let them sit with the quiet consequence of losing your support. Because true strength is not found in proving someone wrong. True strength is being so entirely secure in your own integrity that their misunderstanding of you no longer matters. But holding this silence naturally brings up the hardest, final physical step of the journey, the act of completely letting them go. And this is where the next truth begins. 8. Cutting the cord of attachment. What if the reason you cannot find peace is not because they are still holding on to you, but because you refuse to drop the rope? Here is the truth about walking away. You can stop speaking to someone who betrayed you. You can block their number, avoid their presence, and confidently tell the world that you are completely done with them. But physical distance is not the same as emotional freedom. You still replay the betrayal in the quiet moments of the morning. You still check on their life from a distance. You still secretly wait for the day they realize what they lost, and finally offer the profound apology you deserve. You think you have moved on, but you are still deeply, painfully entangled. In Buddhist thought, attachment is not just about clinging to the things we love. We can also become deeply attached to our own pain, our resentments, and the people who hurt us. The practice of non-attachment means accepting things exactly as they are in this present moment, without demanding they conform to our desperate wishes. To cut the cord of attachment does not mean you simply forget the past or excuse the betrayal. It means you stop dragging the heavy weight of their choices into your own future. It means accepting the harsh reality that closure is not something they give you. It is a door you must close yourself. Imagine a thick, heavy rope pulled tight across a dark canyon. On the other side stands the person who let you down. They are holding their end, keeping the tension alive. You stand on your side, hands blistered and aching, pulling back with all your might. You pull because you want to win. You pull because you want to drag them over the edge, to make them see the pain they caused. But the harder you pull, the deeper the rope cuts into your own hands. The only way to stop the bleeding is not to pull harder. The only way to win is to simply open your hands and let the rope drop. Think about this in your own life. Every time you bring up their name to mutual friends to prove they were wrong, you are picking up the rope. Every time you craft the perfect imaginary comeback in your mind, you are pulling the rope. Every time you wait for karma to punish them so you can finally feel vindicated, You are holding on tight. You are keeping yourself tied to the very source of your suffering, desperately waiting for an ending they are entirely incapable of writing. Ask yourself, what are you actually holding on to? Are you waiting for a confession that may never come? Or are you simply afraid of the empty, quiet space that will be left behind once you finally release the anger? Stop. Breathe. Observe the tension in your mind and your body. Open your hands. You do not need their regret to heal your heart. You do not need their validation to move forward. Do your part, then release the outcome. Let the invisible cord fall to the ground. Release them back to the universe. Let them walk their path with their own burdens, and you walk yours in peace. Because holding on to resentment is not justice. It is a prison with an unlocked door. But once you finally drop the rope and step outside, you must discover how to stand firmly on this newly reclaimed ground. And this is where the final truth begins. 9. The freedom of true groundedness. We began this journey in the blinding shock of a fallen mask. You felt the sharp, sudden sting of betrayal from someone you once shielded from the world. You felt the unbearable weight of injustice, the burning heat of anger, and the desperate, frantic urge to react. You thought the only way to survive the disappointment was to shout louder than the pain, or to build a heavy wall around your heart so that no one could ever enter again. But look at where you are standing now. You have walked through the fire, and you have chosen not to let it burn down your own house. You have looked at the cloudy, turbulent water inside your shaken mind, and you have chosen to set the jar down. You have felt the heavy, agonizing tension of the rope, and you have finally opened your hands. This is the profound beauty of a response that is slower than rage but stronger than silence. Buddhism reminds us that true peace is never found by controlling the storm outside. It is found by securing the anchor inside. You have realized that their inability to hold the weight of your loyalty was never a reflection of your worth. It was only the mirror of their own brokenness. You do not need to collect the debt they owe you. You do not need their apology to close the door. Think about the deep, immovable roots of the ancient tree standing on the edge of the cliff. The heavy winds of their betrayal came and went. The storm was loud, chaotic, and destructive. But as the dark clouds finally break and the quiet morning light returns, you realize a beautiful truth. The storm did not uproot you. It only cleared away the dead branches. It cleared away the illusion of who you thought they were. It freed you from the exhausting task of spending the rest of your life defending someone who would not do the same for you. Your profound capacity for loyalty, your empathy, and your willingness to see the good in others were not mistakes. They are your greatest strengths. You just simply know, now, that those gifts must be guarded with wisdom. You do not have to turn your heart to stone. You only have to stop throwing your kindness into the mud. Ask yourself one final time, as you stand on this reclaimed ground, feeling the quiet rhythm of your own breath, does their perception of you really matter anymore? Let the past remain exactly where it is. Pull all your beautiful protective energy back into your own chest. You do not have to fight them. You do not have to fix them. You are safe within your own integrity. You have survived the shock. You have chosen your peace over their chaos. If these lessons touched your heart, share this video with someone who may need a little more peace today. The storm has passed. Stay with yourself.